The Dark Troopers, those things absolutely terrified 6-year-old me in 1995, but I couldn't stop playing. Star Wars Dark Forces wasn't just a game, it was a frickin' time machine that dropped you right into the original trilogy when I was obsessed with anything Star Wars related. Do you remember the first time you felt like you were actually in Star Wars? I don't mean just watching it, I mean living it. Breathing the recycled air of a Star Destroyer, feeling the grimy chill of a city planet's underworld, the pure panic of a blaster bolt whizzing right past your head. For a whole generation of us 90s kids, that feeling didn't come from a movie. It came from a CD-ROM. But before we jump into hyperspace, let's explore why this 30-year-old game still hits us with waves of nostalgia. Make sure to hit that subscribe button and ring the notification bell. We've got tons of retro gaming content coming your way. To understand why Dark Forces hit so hard, you have to understand the context. Picture this, it's 1995, and we're living in a Star Wars content drought. It had been 12 years since Return of the Jedi came out in 1983. Sure, we had some arcade games where you could fly pixelated X-Wings around. I remember watching my dad play Rebel Assault, and my lord, that game was hard. We were lucky to make it out of the Canyon training level mission. And there were books and comics and stuff as well, but actual interactive Star Wars experiences, they were rarer than finding a working droid on Tatooine. My brother and I were always having frickin' lightsaber battles and using force powers on each other. We were absolutely obsessed with anything Star Wars related. So when Dark Forces was announced, it wasn't just exciting, it was an event. A chance to return to that galaxy far, far away when we missed it most. Meanwhile, in the PC gaming world, Doom was the absolute king. The first-person shooter was the brand new frontier of digital action, and Doom wasn't just a game, it was a cultural phenomenon. Fast, violent, brilliantly simple, and you basically could run it on anything. It was so dominant that every other 3D game was basically running on its engine or desperately trying to copy it. The market got flooded with so-called Doom clones, games that copied the formula with varying degrees of success. But even in that crowded space, one idea kept echoing through the early online communities. What if you could do this, but in Star Wars? The demand was so real that fans started to make it happen themselves, creating custom Doom levels that would painstakingly recreate the Death Star. That's when LucasArts stepped in. They weren't just some developer, they were a powerhouse of storytelling, famous for legendary point-and-click adventures like The Secret of Monkey Island. So when they decided to step into the FPS arena, they weren't just about to slap a Star Wars skin on a Doom clone, they had bigger plans. So boom, it's 1995 and Dark Forces drops. Suddenly, everything changed. From the moment you boot it up, you know this is something special. That opening crawl with John Williams' score blasting through your speakers, the rendered cutscenes with Darth Vader and Mon Mothma that looked like deleted scenes from the movies. LucasArts also made a brilliant choice right from the start. Instead of playing as Luke Skywalker or someone else, you're Kyle Katarn, a former Imperial officer turned mercenary for the Rebel Alliance. This grounded, relatable rogue with Han Solo's grit and a soldier's know-how, he's the guy who steals the plans to the original Death Star. Long before Rogue One, it was Kyle who got those plans to the rebellion. This wasn't just another game using the Doom engine. LucasArts built their own Jedi engine from scratch, and holy shit, the difference was night and day. Look at this, moving floors and ceilings, rooms stacked on top of other rooms, and you could actually jump. Revolutionary stuff in 1995. And you look up and down your screen without it turning into a funhouse mirror nightmare like in Doom. But the real flex, that opening sequence where Kyle gets dropped off by his ship. In 1995, having a fully rendered 3D spaceship in your level was a straight up technological flex that said we're not playing the same game as everyone else. And speaking of not playing the same game, forget your traditional shotguns and rocket launchers. Dark Forces said, we're doing Star Wars weapons, and they nailed it. The Imperial Repeater, the concussion rifle, these weren't just reskins, they had their own feel, their own personality. The combat felt visceral in a way that was uniquely Star Wars. Those red blaster bolts spraying everywhere, leaving sparks and smoke when they hit the walls. LucasArts used the actual sound library from the films, so every blaster shot, every door hiss, every Imperial officer shouting, "Blast him!" was exactly how you remember it. Level design and objectives, here's where Dark Forces really separated itself from the pack. Instead of hunting for colored keys like some futuristic janitor, you had actual objectives, real mission briefings. You weren't just running to an exit door, you were completing legitimate, Rebel spy missions. Every mission was built around real objectives tied to the story. To help you out, the game had an inventory of gadgets. Unheard of in shooters back then, you needed an infrared scanner to see in the dark, a gas mask for toxic areas, or ice cleats to walk on frozen surfaces. It added strategy that was totally alien to the run and gun style of its peers. Every level felt authentically Star Wars, Imperial facilities with those primitive LED control panels that made the perfect bleeps and bloops, detention centers that looked like they belonged on the Death Star, those little mouse droids scuttling around the corridors, dodging blaster fire like they had somewhere important to be. And then there were the Dark Troopers. Man, as a kid, those things were genuinely terrifying, especially that unfinished one on the red mine level. It looked like it crawled out of a Terminator movie. The way it moved and sounded, that scared the shit out of me as a kid. And here's something that might surprise modern players. Dark Forces didn't have unlimited lives or quick saves. You had a limited amount of lives, and Kyle had personal shields that didn't automatically recharge. This was years before Halo made regenerating shields mainstream. Every encounter mattered because failure had real consequences. I had played Doom a bit as a kid, so this was similar and had a lot of similar mechanics, but my lord, this game was fun. The different sound effects, the cutscenes, incredible game. Kyle Katarn too. He was such a cool character. I really wish they would have made a movie with him or a whole series about his story. So cool. Way better than all the hot garbage that's coming out from Disney Star Wars these days. And to have this kind of stuff in a first-person 3D game, it was magical, man. It was really like being plugged into the original trilogy. Everything felt like OG Star Wars. It was 5 to 6 hours where you could return to that galaxy far, far away that you knew and loved. Dark Forces confidently did its own thing in ways that seemed mundane today but were revolutionary in 1995. The room-over-room technology meant you could be slinking through a sewer pipe and hear stormtroopers marching on the street right above your head. The jumping and looking mechanics opened up entirely new tactical possibilities. Being able to look up meant that enemies could be hiding on ledges above you. This push towards more complex, story-driven, and objective-based missions created a direct line to later classics like GoldenEye 007, Unreal, and Half-Life. Dark Forces helped prove that a shooter could be more than a mindless rampage. It could tell a great story and build a fascinating world. Its success launched one of the most beloved series in the Star Wars gaming universe, the Jedi Knight series. Kyle Katarn's story would continue as he discovered his Force sensitivity and trained to be a Jedi. Star Wars Jedi Knight Dark Forces 2, I absolutely fell in love with that game, but that's a video for a later time. The recent Dark Forces Remaster from Night Dive Studios is fascinating because it's delivering double nostalgia. The game was already serving up nostalgia for the original Star Wars trilogy back in 1995. Now we're getting double nostalgic for our nostalgia, some kind of emotional inception. If you're playing the game for the first time today, you'll immediately notice that it is, without a doubt, a game from 1995. The very level design that was so groundbreaking can be its biggest problem today. The maps are enormous, sprawling, and often feel like labyrinths. It's incredibly easy to get lost, wandering down identical-looking hallways for what feels like an eternity. Lasting legacy. Even its specific lore has lasted. The Dark Troopers that were created just for this game were so iconic that they were eventually brought back into the official Star Wars canon, menacing our heroes in The Mandalorian almost 30 years later. Disney and the shit coming out nowadays are hot garbage compared to the expanded universe stuff that we got back in the day. Kyle Katarn felt like a character who could have walked right out of the original trilogy. It's honestly criminal we never got a movie or series. Dark Forces is like an oasis in the Star Wars desert. It's super cool that we got Dark Forces remastered at all, let alone one this polished and respectful to the original. As someone who was a nerdy kid in 1995, booting this up is an amazing blast from the past, and Dark Forces is an important part of PC gaming history. So a remaster like this is an important act of preservation. So, after 30 years, what's the final verdict? Dark Forces wasn't just a great game. It was a time machine that let us return to that galaxy far, far away when we needed it most. It proved that licensed games could be innovative, that Star Wars could work in any genre, and that sometimes the best way to honor source material is to push boundaries while staying true to what made it special. It's both an essential piece of gaming history and an unapologetic hit of pure nostalgia. For those of us who are there, it's an emotional touchstone. For newcomers, it's a fascinating look at the DNA of the modern shooter. I just picked up the remaster by Night Dive Studios that dropped in 2024, so you know what I'm about to fire up on my Steam Deck next. What are your memories of Dark Forces? Did you play it back in the day? Or are you discovering Kyle Katarn's first mission for the first time? Drop your thoughts in the comments below, and don't forget to like and subscribe for more retro gaming deep dives. May the Force be with you, and I'll see you in the next one.